Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. I am your host, Danielle K. White. I'm the creator of Natural Beauty Rose, and I started this podcast probably 5 years ago. I was so uncomfortable being in front of the camera, especially talking and that kind of thing, and this has really brought the message of my education and everything to life. So today I actually have a special guest. She is one of my students. We have Britta. I'm going to botch your last name.
Van Boerum.
Van Boerum. I was like, I won't botch it. I won't botch it. I'm like, I wanted to say it's Van, and then.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Van Boerum.
You're good.
Well, it's good to have you on the show today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Britta's actually a part of my council group. So I have a large mastermind group, I have a large, academy group of over 500 artists. Mm-hmm. And it's about a 9-month to a year program. How long did it take you to finish?
A little over a year.
A little over a year? Yeah. I always say, I always tell people like, plan on about a year, but you can do it sooner. Some have taken a little bit longer, but it's catered. It's online and in person. It caters on business, marketing, sales, sales funnels, photos, and of course, Natural Beauty Rose hair extensions. Yeah. So Britta is actually one of my licensed artists. She went through all of the trainings. And I always say, like, don't that badge of being licensed, like you did the work, like you put in the work. So tell us a little bit, like, where are you from, your salon, things like that.
Yeah. So I'm from Holiday, Utah, and I own a salon called Scandia Collective Extension Lounge. We do exclusively only natural beaded rose, and I started this because of the whole idea of NBR, and both for the stylist and for the guest, I thought there was nothing.
How long ago did you find NBR?
So I found NBR right after, I joined in January of 2021. So right after COVID, I was a new stylist. And
How'd you find us?
I had a coworker who did it that I worked under, and she told me about it, and I just didn't even blink twice. It's like, I have to be a part of this. And yeah, it's truly, I say this to everyone, the best decision I've made in my entire life was joining and not looking back.
Do you feel like it kind of fast-tracked your business? Did it help you kind of like focus in? Like, what's been your biggest, so you've been in, that doesn't seem like that long ago, right? And I feel like I've seen you grow so much just in like the past couple years. When did you become a salon owner?
So I opened my salon a year and a half ago. But yeah, like you were saying, it really did expedite myself. And I tell my girls, we have a younger team. And what I heard in the industry was the longer you're here, the longer, the more reps you have, whatever. And I just was like, no, age, I'm 22.
Yeah.
I own a salon and I'm here in council, which for me is a huge accomplishment. And I just was like, no, age is just a number. And I allowed NBR to take the wheel, and it wasn't about how long I've been in the industry.
I think that's common in our industry, or probably any industry. It's like, no. Like, you've got to hit these benchmarks first, and then you've had success. But what happens when the benchmarks you're told are not like relevant anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, put in your year sitting behind the chair.
Totally.
Take every service.
Totally.
After you've built your book of business of taking every service, then you can decide to raise your prices, or you can eliminate haircuts or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, why don't I start this game and paint a vision of what I want that to look like, instead of putting in your time and then deciding to paint your vision.
Totally.
So I feel like that's what I've seen you do, which is, as a young artist, like, has been incredible to watch, because you're like, okay, screw what the industry norms are, or in the hair industry, what they tell you. Why do I have to do that? And that's what's actually propelled you forward. And I feel like it has, even though you're young, you're like a baby, your mindset is right there with everybody in council. Yeah. You're a salon owner, you're very successful. And I tease you because I'm like, you look like a baby. But when I talk to you, I remember I was like, you're like an old soul though.
Yeah.
Like, you're very articulate, like you're definitely ahead of the game. So share, how did that happen for you? Like when you found the academy, or even then, like, how come you didn't decide to just take like every service and to put in your time and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, when I got in the industry and I found NBR, I knew I wanted to create something bigger and better, and I couldn't find it. I was in Utah. There's a million salons, and I knew if I wanted, what I wanted to do, I had to make it happen now and act fast and put in the work. Like I said, everyone says, oh, put in the years, put in the time. I literally went to business school, and that was nothing in compared to what I got out of academy.
So you did go to business school?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I have a marketing degree at the University of Utah.
Nice.
And I did that because that's what I was told. I was told, go to college, you'll be able to open a business, sit and do hair for X amount of years, get married, have kids, then open up your dream salon.
Yeah. You're like at 40?
Yeah. I'm like, and then life starts. So, you know, I was very grateful and fortunate that I heard of the academy because it was that mindset shift that I didn't have to sit and wait.
Yeah. Permission.
Yeah. Permission and the perspective that I was like, I don't want to do. I didn't even realize people were working 6 days a week,
I know.
12-hour days. And I said, if I have any chance of doing what I want, which is being a producing and fulfilled mother down the road, I need to put in the work right now.
Yeah.
And I sacrificed, you know, all the little things to get there early.
Right. You remind me of me in a lot of ways. Like I started doing hair I actually went to college for a semester. So good job. You actually have a degree. I went for a semester and I was like, well, this is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So then I went to hair school and I never felt like I thought like a hairstylist. I felt like I always thought like a producer. I was always kind of like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, I don't really want to take that service. Well, I'm not going to make any money there. And that's kind of what I see in you. So I think it's understanding like your value and your worth and like thinking, I always say like, yeah, you're a hairstylist by trade, but that doesn't mean you have to operate by the traditional norms that our industry teaches us. And so it probably was good at some level that you kind of went into hair after you had your degree because you probably like thought through things a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of did it at the same time. And I feel like I just went, you know, it was just like kind of that idea of just go and make it happen. And, you know, the academy educates you on here are the steps and all you have to do is go.
Right.
And so like you were saying with the whole service side of things, when they said, you know, it's time for you to realize your worth, charge this, let go of that. I didn't bat an eye.
You didn't think about it.
I didn't bat an eye because you see everyone around you.
They're doing it. And I think that's kind of what I'm passionate about in creating the academy is there's so many, I call it ass backwards patterns inside the industry that I'm like, hey, I'd rather get like young blood. Yeah. I want to get some fresh where you don't think about it. You're like, hey, this is how it is. Because then you don't create bad patterns and that you have to break. My hardest thing as an educator is I find my younger ones actually have more success faster. And my older ones, I'm like, it's because you're like the old dog that won't learn new tricks. Like just break down those barriers, but it's hard when you've abided in an industry that's doing a certain way, you know? So, but we have both inside of council. Like we have women that are like still trying to break through. And then we, like you said, like age is just a number, right? It's your willingness to kind of learn and let go and make your own dream story. Yeah. Okay. So you have your salon, you have how many girls do you have working with you again?
There's 3 of us and they're both wrapping up the academy. They'll be licensed in the next couple months.
And how has it been creating a salon culture for you? Because I feel like once you decide, you're like, oh, I do hair, and you build up your book of business, and then like the next step was like, I'm going to own a salon. And then you're like, shit, this is a lot tougher than I was thinking. Yeah. So talk to me about that journey.
Culture is everything. And, you know, I said I opened a year and a half ago, but I say I've actually really only been open for 6 months because the whole first year it was culture control. And I opened not knowing where was I at with that culture. Right. And I let people in on my team. It caused things. And honestly, you know, I had life things that were very relevant a year ago that I was just kind of operating on cruise control, opening my business because of family things and all of that to me, culture wasn't important. But now I look at it like culture's everything. Yeah. Without the culture, it's just a service and they can go anywhere.
Well, and I think it's interesting too because I asked that because you said, you know, your artists are a part of the academy as well. Yeah. And it's so hard as a business owner to have people that don't like drink the Kool-Aid with you. Because if you succeed, they succeed and vice versa. And if you can have a culture and a community of that in your salon, then that you're always constantly learning and growing and thriving together versus a lot of salon owners, what they're lacking is consistency and culture inside their business. And so they get tired that the only money that they're making by owning a salon is if they are actually behind the chair. Yes. But if you build a thriving community and culture, that's how I have been able to walk away from my salon and just educate and do hair for education. And my salon is thriving because of the community and the culture. But that takes investing inside of whoever it is that you bring on your team and making sure that you're like, these are my standards. And if it's not your dream, that's fine. You can go find your own salon. But so I always encourage all salon owners. And I learned the hard way. And maybe you did too. It sounds like you did. Like, you're like, there's a few that were bad apples and, I had to get rid of them. And so I always say, like, if you're looking to be a salon owner, open a salon without that scarcity mindset of like, anybody who's willing to pay me and come rent a booth or I can make money off of, like, don't go into it with this scarcity mindset. If you're going to actually open a salon, just submit to the fact that you're going to have to put a year to 2 years into building your teams.
Yeah.
You're going to have to build in order to let go.
Yes.
You have to grow in order to let go. So talk to me about that. Because on our call, you're like, okay, I'm building up my teams. My goal is to only work 2 days a week or whatever. How's that been?
Well, we've been open for a while, and at one point I had 9 girls. You did? And genuinely, people that I was friends with and all of that. And I realized in order to grow, I had to let half of them go.
Yeah.
And I had to call that shot. I said, we are an NBR salon. You're on the train or you're not. And some people, you can't force people into your culture. They have to believe it. And my 2 girls right now, my culture with them is, look, I want you to be a successful stylist. I have the tools. NBR has the tools for you to get there. You just have to trust the process. You'll work 3 days a week and you will be a well-rounded person,
right?
Not just someone with a good bank account.
I think that entrepreneurs confuse that they think that everybody thinks like them, right? So you're an entrepreneur because you have your own salon. You're a hairstylist by trade, but you're also an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So when we hire people, we think they're going to think like us, but the reality is if you set up a beautiful culture and community inside your salon, they just want to show up and do pretty hair and drink the Kool-Aid. But we think that they need to do everything that we're doing. And we're like, no, let me be the face of my brand. Let me market. Let me bring you guys leads. You guys show up and just be like, excited to go to work and do the pretty hair. And then it's our job as a salon owner to make sure that our teams are taken care of. And that also we're going to make it rain.
Exactly.
And we're going to be the face of our brand. And that's how a thriving salon will continue to go. And even for me, like I have moments, and you'll find this as you own your salon even longer, is where you're going to hit the gas for a while and you're going to like pour into it. And then you're like, oh, I can kind of let go a little bit. And then you're going to be like, oh shit, I got to get back in. I got to get back in. Like it goes in cycles. And that's kind of where I'm at right now is like, I have my 2 babies. So I was able to kind of like step back a little bit, but now I'm like, I can't be so disconnected. Like I still show up at my salon. I still train them on like whatever I need to train them on, photos, lighting, marketing. Right. I'm on their ass all the time about like, hey, did you get this done? And so that's another thing I would encourage you as a salon owner is I think that sometimes we think, why didn't they get it done? Or like, it could be like daily 4 or social media. Yeah. And I tell my teams, I'm like, this is a non-negotiable. Right. This is what needs to be done. And I feel like a broken record because I'm always going back and reminding them of what they need to do. And then I remind myself, I'm the boss and that's my job to do that. Yes. Because it's like, that's what they need. They need a good kick in the ass every once in a while. Right. And they thank you for it.
Totally.
So how do you feel about like your team dynamic? Do you feel like, do you guys do like weekly meetings or monthly meetings or how does that work?
Yeah, so we do monthly meetings. We are closed on Mondays so they can go to the academy calls and we really do. I mean, I do monthly meetings, but I actually do meetings with them one-on-one of, let's push you. How can we get you through the academy? How can we get you to reach your goals? Their goals might look a little bit different than mine, but my goal is it's the partnership. I want to provide for them in a way that is going to work for what they want in their lives.
Well, if you're promoting them, then and they're feeling heard and seen and taken care of, then it works as a team, like you said. So
and they when they show up to work, they want to be there. They're happy to be there. There is expectations I have with obviously the academy and doing their power practice every single day because it has to be perfect. And
I'm like perfect.
Perfect. It has to be perfect. And that's my job of reminding them and realigning them and just getting them to where we all want to go.
Right. And I think it's important to, like, as an entrepreneur, there's nothing wrong with expecting a standard out of your employees. Like there really isn't. And like I said, I think what I experienced in the past is I'd be like, oh, I really want them to do this, but I feel bad asking them to do this. And to where I learned the hard way with past employees. And then I'm like, hey, just because I expect them or I have standards doesn't mean I'm a bitch. It just means like these are the expectations. And ultimately that's why they started working for me, because they needed that little push, you know, and that little, I say, kick in the pants.
Yeah.
But,
and also that trust, you know, when you do like let go a little bit and some of the things that you are holding back or what you want to expect of them. Yeah, they respect you and they trust you, and they are like, look, I say, I'm like, we're all on the same team. We are all playing the same battle, and if you trust me and let me help you help yourself, then everyone wins.
Do you have a salon manager yet?
I did that. I let her go. Yeah.
I've done that multiple times.
Yeah. So I kind of opened up to the idea, and then I decided to kind of step more into that role as I'm still building this culture and building the team. So I'm actually not really behind the chair nearly as much as I was because I oversee.
Are you setting up like better systems and processes so that if you actually hire a salon manager that you can actually delegate like correctly kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I have had several salon managers, and it was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Here, you wear this hat.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh, you fucked it up. Give me the hat back.
Exactly.
Okay, now you wear this hat. Oh, you fucked it up. And it's interesting too, because I finally got dialed in enough. I'm not great at, I'm really detail oriented, but I'm not great at systems and processes. Like my brain just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So I had to know just enough in my business, and that's when I found Crystal.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me show you where I'm lacking. I don't want to count color boxes. I have no idea how much hair inventory. At one point when I hired Crystal, and this is a funny story, but we were cleaning out the salon, and we found like 30 grand of hair just shoved in a drawer, and I was like, that hurts my face a lot. Like, so that's when I knew. I was like, hey, Danielle, I need to stay in my own lane of like what I'm really good at. That's when like the brand was starting to take off and I was teaching more. But I couldn't just pass off the hat.
Right.
I couldn't just be like, hey, do you want to, out of scarcity, do you want to be the salon manager? Wear this hat.
Right.
Like I was doing that with my artists. I was literally like, you be the salon manager. So I hired somebody who actually had reps in being a salon manager at another salon to come in and do it for me.
Totally.
And that was Crystal.
The power you find in yourself as a leader, even whether you're a business owner or you're a salon owner or you are a stylist, the way you lead is realizing where you lack.
Yeah.
And that's what was so hard for me was I'm like, okay, I want to be everything and anything because I'm the leader, but realizing, you know what?
It's not your strength.
There's a lot of that type of stuff that I'm not good at either. And I have a girl who's great at it, you know? And so you just learn, and it ebbs and flows, and you learn how to delegate.
Right.
And then you are more powerful in what you need to do.
I always feel like I want to always have a hand in everywhere in my business, because I never want to be that ignorant person that doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But also have the strength to be able to delegate and know that somebody else is probably going to do this specific job better than me.
Yeah.
And when I figured that out in business, that's when things really started to click. And I was like, shit, I've got a powerful team.
Yeah.
I mean, we're small but mighty. Like what we can pull off with, like I say, there's like literally like 5 of us at the core. Like my whole brand, it's an 8-figure brand, runs off of 5 people.
Yeah. It's incredible.
But it's like you've got to get to that place where you're like, okay, I can have a hand in my business here, but I also am like, I don't have enough ego to be like, I'm going to do it all, because ultimately you'll just kind of burn out.
Yes. You orchestrate it, and then in that, the people who you are trusting in have purpose.
Yeah.
My girls, or my team, I mean, they want to have leadership positions. They want to fulfill some of these roles because they know they can see better than I can what I lack.
I think it's too, like for me, what I've had to do is I'm like, you kind of have to stay observant. And like when people kind of lean in, you're like, you're really good at that. You're like, okay, guess what? Like Mary, for example, she's like the young, sassy one on the team. And she kind of started helping us with social media. And I'm like a social media Nazi. Like I'm very particular with the photos and and she's kind of like, I could tell she had an eye for it. Was she exactly like me? No. But I was like, I'm going to lean into you and like delegate this off my plate, you know?
Right.
And she's like, I like this. So it's, I think it's as a business owner, it's understanding, like, not just, again, out of scarcity, like, will you do this? But like find out where people on your team might excel, and then offering this position will help them feel like even more part of the team.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I want to do this. Like kind of like leaning in and creating sort of your dream team. And if you don't have anybody on your team that you're like, I really need a social media manager, or I really need this person, then you might want to look out and hire that person.
For sure.
The only thing I'll tell you is, like, especially with social media, you can't just dump it on someone's plate. Like, it's a partnership for a while until they, like, understand truthfully, like, your voice and your vibe. And then they can completely, like, take it off your plate.
Right.
It's like when you hire an assistant. You would never be like, hey, well, congratulations on the job. You're going to foil Betsy today.
You do the color.
Yeah, you do the color and I'll jump in and do the MBR. But then for some reason in other areas of our business, we think that way as artists.
Right.
We're like, hey, I don't want to do this. But the reality is, you have to know how to do it.
Right.
So if I delegate something that I know how to do, but I don't want it, then there's a lot of power in that. If I delegate something that I don't know how to do, there's a lot of weakness in that.
Right. And that's kind of why I decided, I love my manager. She was phenomenal. But I needed to go through that in order to protect and preserve my salon moving forward.
Right.
I had to know exactly what was expected and expect it of myself in order to expect it of someone else.
Right, exactly. I love that. I can't remember what podcast I was watching, but it was like some guy and he was like, you can never expect somebody to do something that you haven't done yourself, like truthfully.
Yeah.
And I agree with that and I disagree with that in the sense that I'm like, I don't, there's certain things I don't want to do, but I have to actually understand it in order to delegate it.
Right.
Because otherwise there's been times I've delegated stuff and I'm like irritated that I'm like, this shouldn't take that long, or this, and then I'm like, oh, it's because I don't really know how to do that, and that's why I'm irritated. But so we're in council. We have these these council meetings once a month. And today I want to talk about this really quick. I know we only have like a few minutes left, but we were talking about the importance of routine, and it's interesting because whether it's a bad routine or a good routine, we are all humans that just abide by routines.
Yeah.
And so for me, a lot of times in my life, I've had to ask myself, is this routine serving me? Even down to there's been certain routines that started out really good that maybe I became too obsessive, that all of a sudden the good routine flipped and it all of a sudden was an unhealthy routine.
Right.
So tell me, what are some of your current routines that you do that you feel like set you up to win as a salon owner and entrepreneur?
Well, I used to just set like personal routine within kind of the way my day-to-day operated, but I realized it's so much deeper. And talking with you and talking with Garrett, I have routine within body, being, balance, and business. So date nights regularly, game changer. And every morning I wake up, I go to the gym, I make sure I'm fueled, ready to go. And it just sets me up to pour into everyone else and not feel defeated. My husband always would laugh because I used to go work, go pour into others, my team, my guests, and then I would come home and I'd be like, hey, don't look at me. I'm going to go sit in the tub and decompress. But now when I take the time and have the routine for me, it's not selfish.
Right.
And I wake up, I go do my thing. Then by the time I show up to work, I'm ready to pour into other people.
That's because I am a firm believer, especially as a mom. I mean, I have 4 kids. I have to take time for me. Like my first 2 kids, I always joke around because I have 2 sets of kids because there's an 8-year gap. But my first 2 kids, I experienced that where I was just like doing everything for everybody else. Garrett was like honestly not involved. We didn't know if we were going to stay married. And I just remember thinking back, I'm like, man, I was just really skinny. And like, I almost looked older. Like in my 30s, I looked older than I do now, I swear, because like I was just running myself into the ground.
Yeah.
I was working all the time. I was working out, but I almost even got obsessive with my working out. And then it was probably like my late 20s. Like if I didn't hit the gym, I was like, bah! I was like a monster to my kids. And that's how I was talking about in council. I was like, hey, sometimes a good routine can turn bad. Like I was like an over obsessor worker outer to the point where like it helped me. And then I was just like obsessed and angry to the point where even I was like, I'm working out twice a day. I'm like, I don't need to work out twice a day. I'm not training for anything.
Right.
So it's interesting that as my second set of kids, I've learned how to still keep these healthy patterns and behaviors to, like you said, where they really, I hate the word balance, but like when you feel like your buckets are full in multiple areas, you are more present.
Right.
And you can actually physically and emotionally connect with people better. And when I am not in that place, it's hard for me to connect with people.
Right.
And I hate that. I hate feeling like not even doing hair, something as simple as a client sitting in my chair. It's about the hair, but like it's about connection for me. I want them to leave and be like, I feel amazing.
Right.
And I know it's not just because I have my hands in their hair. We're connected.
Well, and that's one thing I've noticed with joining council and implementing these new routines. when I go to my salon, I'm not just doing extensions. I am connecting and inspiring and empowering women for the next 6 weeks until they come back, you know? And for me, I feel like I've seen enough, and, you know, it's a short period of time that I've been in the industry, but I've seen enough to know that this is such a hard calling we have, and it's so much deeper than providing an extension service. Because if it was just about that, I wouldn't have a salon. I would be done. You know, it's very difficult. And so this transformation process needs everything from you. And that means you showing up for yourself first, so you can show up
Deliver to your clients,
the women who need it.
Yeah. And it's crazy because we are in the service industry, and I think that hairstylists, I always say, like, hairstylists, they are therapists. They really are. But what I find is, like, we're a lot of hairstylists, we're givers. Like, we take so much pride in somebody leaving and being, like, feeling on fire. And you're like, yeah, it's the hair, but, like, where does that transcend into their life? Right. So we, like you said, like, I always say, like, people think, oh, it's just hair, it's not a big deal. I'm like, I'm sorry, but, like, if we come in and we do hair and we first take care of ourselves, like, put the oxygen mask before you give it to your kids, then our connection and our art pours into our clients, and then theirs pours into their business and their kids and their jobs. So it's this transcending energy that starts with you really taking care of yourself. Yes. In order to step into work or any situation and really show up for the biggest version of you, I should say.
Right. We've talked a lot about that just these past couple days. Is as women, we naturally, and I don't have kids, but even the weight of providing and supporting for a husband while also trying to provide and support for myself, my husband, and my future family, it's heavy. Yeah. So what I've realized is the extension transformation allows us that power and permission and confidence to show up differently. I am a million times more confident in my day-to-day with my husband because of taking care of myself, wearing NBR extensions, pouring into my morning routine. Right. I mean, my marriage is on fire when I do those things.
Right. There's this, like, certainty. I always say when I hit my checklist, Danielle Date Night version just shows up like a different person. If I'm like, don't hit my checklist, my routines, I had a shitty week, like, I show up like, babe, I have sweats on. I'm like, I don't know, you want to go get some tacos? Like, whatever. But,
exactly.
So the last thing I want to, like, really emphasize before we end this show is, like, I like to have fun. And Garrett is Mr. 4 a.m. Like, if he misses his 4 a.m., he's a butthole. Like, I'm just going to say it.
Different breed.
He's a man, I'm a woman. But I feel like I put in years of so much routine to where it, like, kind of flipped on its head, and I was just, like, really angry and, like, obsessive. And so I've kind of discovered this balance of me still having this routine and also being fun and flirty and soft, feminine Danielle. Yeah. And so for me, it's like, I always say, hey, it's okay to have fun, but don't have so much fun that it pours into your next week. Right. Because, like, if I have a fun Friday night, but then I have a fun Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and bleeds into a Monday, then it takes me like 3 days to recover. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, so I can't have, like, these fun moments. I can have fun, but I just be careful. Just be careful. Have your moment and don't feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. But then have this structure that's going to set you up for success. Even for me, I'm not behind the chair that much anymore, but I still have intentional things scheduled every single day so that I have purpose to my day. Right. So I think it's so important. If you don't have, certain things on your day off, I would encourage all of you guys, if, like, you only work 3 days a week, that's fine. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, you have days off. Make it strategic. Like, I'm going to work out. I'm going to work on my marketing. I'm going to go on a date night that night, like, whatever it is. Make sure that you're being very strategic with your time and that you have these patterns and routines to set you up for success. But also, I'm going to say it, like, Garrett might be like Mr. 4 a.m., but I'm like, allow yourself to have fun. Yes. Like, it's fun. And he actually does have fun on vacation, so I'm not going to lie. I finally broke him.
Right. Well, and I always say the structure is designed for when things get messed up. You have a little bit of structure and control in your life. Right. So it's okay to sleep in every once in a while if it's something you're willing to sacrifice for being a little bit more, go with the flow and in the moment and present. But if you don't have that structure to start, then you're always out of control.
Yeah, you're always sporadic. Yeah. I used to, it's so funny because I still feel guilty for sleeping in. On Saturdays, I sleep till 8 a.m. Yeah. And literally, I'm like, oh my God, it feels so bad. And Garrett will tease me because, like, 8 a.m. to him is like, he wakes up at 4. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. I only slept till 8. Give me a break. Right. Anyways, well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was so fun to get to know you more. And I've had fun getting to know you on our weekly meetings and our calls and things like that. I love seeing people's transformations, and I like everybody kind of evolve. But you know what I notice about everybody, even inside my specific counsel group, is it's just a higher elevation of students and artists, and everybody is like starting to look lighter to me. Yes. Do you experience that? Am I the only one that's like, oh, you look lighter, you look airy? Like, do you know what I mean?
People walk in the room with a glow, and you're like, what did you do?
What group are you in?
I want what you're drinking,
right?
But truly,
I've noticed that, and I used to notice. I noticed it still in the academy, but it's gotten so big, it's hard for me to keep in contact with everybody. But I still love, like, even in counsel, like, everybody is like learning and growing at their own pace, but their countenance and their connection is changing, which I absolutely love. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
If you guys want more information, go to mbr.education. I have a 1-year academy program on business, marketing, and sales specifically designed for the artist, as well as the tool of natural beautiful hair extensions. I also have a hairline called Isla. You can get access to that if you go to isla.com, or if you want my online course, it's just kind of like getting your foot in the door. I have an online course available too. Go to mbr.education. Britta, what is your IG account so we can follow you?
It's britta.collective. And it's KOLLEKTIV. So
I'm glad you spelled that, because I was like,
it's a little different.
Britta.collective. All right, so go follow her on Instagram. She's amazing. She's out of Holiday, Utah, if you guys want your beautiful hair done there. Or you can follow me at Danielle K. White as well on Instagram. And we'll see you guys every Tuesday for another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast.